Okay. I'm here eating this muffin. I just had like the thought about the dimensions and what a fourth dimensional being would be, and what moving on the fourth dimension would like entail. This is just a theory I have. And so like I guess breaking it down from one, like something one dimensional, kind of like the state of being, like just a dot, not even on a initial plane, right? Just a dot. Boom. Mass. But you could say mass is inherently three-dimensional and not one or two-dimensional. Right? So then moving up is the second dimension. I've let me just summarize it in my brain. Like it works as the dimension of direction, to where you start to see this line form, or yeah, or just multiple dots, shapes, 2D images that can or cannot be descriptive, right? Kind of follow me. In the third dimension, so like going back to one being two, direction, and the third being definition, like what is going on, like what are these like kind of specifics, honestly. And I guess you can go into mass then, like mass, what is mass, how much space is being taken up, right? And I'm thinking maybe the fourth dimension would be when. When and not what, but like when and what at the same time, taking all of the lower dimensions and adding another layer. And people say like time doesn't exist, time is relative. But if you look at it not as time, but as events and possibilities, then like there's like kind of a whole new building scheme that you can kind of go on top of, and maybe a fourth dimensional being would freely be able to move between possibilities, kind of free from the unknown in a way, or constantly exploring the unknown in whatever way you would do that as a fourth dimensional being, So, first dimension is the dimension of existence, like there is something there. Two is direction, right? Three is definition. Four is time, or possibility. And then, like, I guess moving on from there, and where would you go? Where would you go from the fourth dimension? And I'm thinking, like, three-dimensional beings, you can go up, down, in, out. You're on, Earth. You're on in a space, altitude, stuff like that. And I guess the next thing would be like with all of these things that you can do in the third dimension, to add on top of that would be like kind of multiplying that in a way to where you could have things happen but then kind of move back in a different way that I don't really understand to like to like whatever, because like think about it like this, like I'm not understanding how that would work, because right here right now, if I break something and then rebuild it, that's something that happened. Like I can't go back and not break it. I just rebuilt it, so it won't be the same as before, right? But what if I was a fourth dimensional being, and instead of rebuilding it kind of how it was, I'm making it into something different, but I still have the remembrance of it being a certain way, and I can go back and not do anything to it at all. So I have what, three or four possibilities that would maybe move simultaneously. Like at being able to actively branch off and pursue different possibilities on the third dimension while still being a whole mind on the fourth. So I know all these separate things, and I'm going almost endlessly when it comes to taking different turns, and I also wonder how a life like that would end necessarily, because you could say it's like on the third dimension, like they're living forever, kind of, to where they have all these different things that they know, and they're constantly searching, exploring, finding things out. And then I'm wondering, would the fifth dimension be some type of plane of absolution, to where what is and what is not may be, or already would have been, you know? But that's even like, that's kind of messing me up right now. Like, how would you add on to freedom of possibility, you know? Like, how would you even get to a 12th dimension, you know? Like, how, like, what is going on there? You know? And that's kind of my thought. So maybe, long story short, maybe the fourth dimension is kind of like a being of higher conscious, to where they can actively not even think, but like know and go these different places on a so-called event line and try out different things. But the only restriction, I guess, will be you couldn't go back to a time that you weren't, you didn't have some type of physical or whatever form they would have. So before they came into being is all that they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know anything before their own existence. Or would they be tied down? I guess it would make sense if you were tied down to that. So like, okay, you start, and kind of like, you know, just like a regular baby, you start from a point, you start learning and learning, but with the ability to move in the fourth dimension, you'd be able to do all these different things. And I'm wondering, would it be after a certain point you realize you can move on this plane and then go back, and then with that continued knowledge, really not going anywhere and staying within your conscious, however that may work? It all goes down to what type of form they would take, you know, and just being able to process all of this. Like, would it, I almost start thinking like it'd have to be some type of, not magic, but just something I don't understand. Like, I some foreign process, you know, completely foreign process. And yeah, it was just an interesting thought. Just an interesting thought I had. And would they be able to? Well, they'll be able to comprehend lower dimensions, but would they be able to kind of like project themselves down? That's the real question. Can we project ourselves down, and what is the criteria to doing that properly? That's also an idea. Projecting image and identity down to these lower dimensions is what I mean. The only way I'm thinking of doing it would be a kind of like artistic, symbolistic type deal. But as I try to get further into that, I start hitting these what if this, what if that. It's really interesting. That's all I have to say. It's just like a thought that's like, and what if someone, I just kind of want someone to go like kind of in depth and like maybe seek the possibilities and like elaborate on this small little idea a little bit more, and like even off of this after off of my idea of the fourth dimension, try to go into a fifth and sixth, like so on and so forth. I'm really curious to that. So hopefully someone sees this and like kind of shoots it around a little bit. But if not, it'll just be like a part of like my regular checkups, and I'll do a checkup video as well, and just keep posting. But yeah, just a thought I had, and that's it. Thank you guys for listening. Much appreciated.